everyone. Welcome to week 21 of the Mentorship program. So good to see all of you. Yes, Laura, how do you say that name? Bula? Bula. Bula. Yes, welcome. It is our second day of the presentations, so we're gonna go right ahead. Let me share over here with you. First of all, we're just going to go through our value of the week. So this week we're practicing the value of joy through the lens of love. And our thought of the week is grab that joy. Just grab it. And here in our objective, as best said by Dr. Bettina Love, a revolutionary spirit that embraces joy, self-care, and love is moving towards wholeness. Acknowledging joy is to make yourself aware of your humanity, creativity, self-determination, power, and ability to love abundantly. Thank you, Bettina Love. If you don't know who Bettina Love is, highly encourage you to check them out. Great teacher. And I also saw the Cheez-Its. You're being distracted over there with your Cheez-Its. At least you should share some through the thing. Yes, check Dr. Bettina Love out. And as I'm remembering right now, if we could send some love to our friend Victoria and Anna, who, if you don't know, have this kitty called Kitty, and they had to put their cat down, put her down. And so if you could send her some love, if you're a cat parent or just a pet parent, you know how tough it is sometimes to go through this transition. So if you can send them some love, that would be great. So thank you. Yes. Thank you for pets. Thank you for Victoria for always being so joyful and giving all the love, and sending much love to Kitty in the spiritual realms. Yeah, she was the best cat. She didn't give me allergies, which I have cat allergies, so thank you, Kitty. Look, there's a cat here. In the honor of Kitty, let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Move your body in any way that it needs. Maybe your neck feels a little tense, or just remember the circles we did last time of our body to move the lymph. Yes, and take another deep breath in. Bring your arms up. And take a little more air. Keep it in for a little bit. And breathe out. Open your arms wide. And come back through this moment. So if you were not here last week, please share in the chat with us what shifts have you noticed within yourself after these 20 weeks? Well, now it's 21 weeks. But yes, we had a great time sharing last time about what we've noticed and how, in one could say a short period amount of time, the shifts that we've seen for ourselves. So feel free to share that, as small or biggie as it could be. And yes, today you read chapter 12 of Loving What Is. We won't discuss it today since we will be going through the presentations. But if you have anything you want to share from that, anything you want to talk with your buddies, feel free to share that. Tracy said, I'm more self-aware, more honest with myself. Ooh, a lot of self-awareness. Audil, also more self-awareness, being more kind to myself. Amazing. Javier, when I have a thought about being a bad teacher, I'm able to do the work on that thought much more quickly. Awesome. Yes, so many shifts. Becca's Miran, more aware. I love all the awareness. More aware, more critical of thoughts that emerge, more willing to do the work. Great. Becca, I question my thoughts more and realize that not everything I think is true. Yes, overall, I feel more in tune with myself and what I really want and what is actually happening versus what I assume is true or happening. Yes.
I meant to say not everything I think is, or that not everything I think is true. Like just because I think it doesn't mean it's true.
Right. But every thought that goes through your head doesn't mean that that is true. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like sometimes my thoughts lie to me, basically.
Yeah, or just are trying to keep you safe, right? Have we seen. So what is it? Feelings are not facts, and not all thoughts are true. Yeah, that's been super helpful for me too, and so happy to see that is happening for you. Jamie, better equipped to talk myself down from the ledge of anxiety, grief, anger. Yes, and thank you, Jamie, for sharing with us your movement towards what did you share about from diabetes to pre-diabetes, and grateful and happy for your health. Teal and Melody, I don't know which one, but I feel I have more language and tools to help me do what I was trying to do before, become better at loving myself and others. I think that was Teal. Sounds like Teal. Great. Love it. Amazing, y'all. Can we just like take a second and realize this? 20 weeks could go really fast, and you have shown up, you have been here, you have done the work literally, but also you've made more space. We make more space to bring things into our lives that are going to be helpful to, I'm sure you can feel the shift, as for example, Jamie, literally in their body, and also in your mind and how you're dealing with your everyday lives. And so, yes, just in whatever way you want to acknowledge that for yourself. Maybe it's a hug to yourself, maybe just like taking a deep breath in. I celebrate myself. I think it's one of our thoughts of the week for celebration. Melody says she has learned nothing. Zero growth. Yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, whatever, fuck it, let's leave. Nothing happened here. Oh man, so good. All right, let's get started. Let me stop for a second. That's good. I love sarcasm. I have a feeling that Teal said that. Okay. Abril is gonna get us started with the presentations. Yes. Melody was born perfect and will remain perfect. Amen. We'll have actually, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 presentations tonight. So I'll put 10 minutes on the clock just to keep track, but we might have a little more time. Okay. Let's see. Are you able to share screen, or do I need to make you host?
Yeah, I have the button.
Okay.
I see it, so I'll just try it.
Okay. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Let me set this up and hope that it works, because in my experience, you always have technical issues. But this will not be the case. Okay. One entire screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So my initiative is called Little Human Values: Nurturing Compassion and Responsibility in Young Hearts. And the purpose of this initiative is interactive initiative designed to instill human values in young children, and it focuses on creating a foundation of values based on play-based learning techniques. So the goals is help children develop into compassionate and responsible human beings, and foster values that will guide them in their life's journey. So the audience and duration, the audience is my 4-year-old daughter. She is very, has a short attention span and very strong-willed, not a very good listener, but I believe, we'll get through. We will implement strategies that will get through to her. And the idea is to do this for 6 months and weekly sessions. So the structure would be develop a curriculum for every week that outlines what the value, and then activities, games, and lessons, and then have story time sessions related to those values. Use pretend play to demonstrate the values in action, and then create or use songs that highlight the values. More use songs, but sometimes I feel creative enough to actually make up a song on the spot. And then resources, books for the stories, art supplies like coloring, paper, um, Play-Doh, educational toys, musical instruments. Even though I don't play anything, we try here, and she also tries. And props, costumes, and whiteboard for drawing. And then what it would look like, I just drafted this example for the value of kindness. Uh, so the objective would be to introduce the concept of kindness, and then I would start by asking, what does kindness means to you? Do you know what it means? And then do a meditation, like very brief meditation related to kindness. Then a book that also features kindness, a discussion, could display pictures illustrating kind actions like sharing a toy, or helping someone cross the street. And then for the activity, we can make a card expressing gratitude to someone in her life. And then we can play a song about kindness, and then do a reflection and closing. So this is the gist, and I want to practice. If you're willing to, I want to practice one of the elements right now. And I know that Andrea already did a silent sitting, but I would like to do a kindness meditation if you're willing to participate. So let me stop sharing, and I'm just gonna uh, um, start the meditation. And this is my first time doing that, so a little nervous. So find a quiet and comfortable spot to sit. Uh, Close your eyes if you like, and take a deep, calming breath in, and exhale slowly. So begin by putting on a big, warm smile. Imagine your smile is like sunshine that can make everything around you happy. Now, imagine a special place in your heart. This is your kindness space. Picture it as cozy, glowing room filled with love and kindness. Feel its warm and gentle light. In your kindness space, see a picture of yourself. Say in your mind, I am kind, I am good, I love myself. Feel the love and kindness you have for yourself. Next, picture the people you care about, your family, your friends, and even your pets. Send them kind wishes by saying, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be loved. Imagine your kindness wrapping around them like a hug. Now, imagine our whole world. Picture it floating in front of you, like a big, beautiful glove. Send your kindness to the world by saying, may the world be happy, may the world be healthy, may the world be filled with love. Imagine your kindness spreading all over the world like glittering stardust. Take a few more deep breaths, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Remember, you have a magical power inside you, the power of kindness. And so you can open your eyes when you're ready. Um, and just, I feel like even reading this meditation and picturing kind of guiding my daughter through this, even though I know, like, at the beginning she won't be very engaged. But just doing that and thinking of me being able to do that when I was a kid, um, it's just something really powerful to think that. uh, yeah, to think that I could say those words to myself. So yeah, I'm very excited for this initiative, and thank you so much for your attention.
Yes. Clap, 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 clap. Love it, Ariel. That was wonderful. I second what Becca said. Can I be your child? Can we be your children? Yes.
You gotta ask her if she thinks.
Oh yeah, she might not want any other siblings competing there. That's what I thought at the beginning. I was like, oh my God, this child is so like lucky, or I don't like to use lucky, but just so wonderful that she has you as your mother. And yes, I loved the smile part. Me hiciste llorar, dice Javier. And yes, like sometimes like making a smile, not like fake it, but like, oh, let me bring a smile, like that. Wow, that can do wonderful things. So you have already done so, but if you want to share any more comments or feedback for Abril, I love that I texted you just before this, like, oh, are you all good for 39? And you're like, I think so. And then like this bomb presentation, and like so great. So yes, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes, love little. Yeah.
Abril, I don't think you understand like how powerful it is what you're describing. It's more than everything I've ever envisioned, trying to get parents to participate in human values and in the mentorship program. And they're like, oh yeah, it's really nice, que bonito, whatever. But the fact that you're here and you signed up, I was already excited because I knew you were going to work with your child. And just seeing this presentation and the actual, what it actually looks like, it's a dream come true for me. And I think that you're the first in a movement of parenting, human values parenting. I think we're going to look back on this 20, 30 years from now and see that this was the beginning. And so I'm just like so happy, so emotional. Congratulations. And I love you. Thank you so much, Abril.
Thank you. I love you too.
All the love. Yes. Stewards of this human values parenting. That's where it's at, y'all. All right. Before we keep stay on this, and let's move on to gracias, Abril. Thank you, Abril. Melody, are you available to go next?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Okay, we have Melody talking about We Village. Tell us, what is that?
Okay. Before I jump into my presentation, I wanted to use 2 minutes. 1 minute to tell you about the activity, speaking of the teaching techniques. So if you have a pen and paper close by, you can grab that, just any writing material. And let me know when you have that ready. Just give a thumbs up. All right, so I'll keep speaking as some of you still gather your materials. And I'd like you to write your name, who you are, or draw a figure, a stick figure or person in the middle, and label that as yourself. You can say me, Queen, Tracy. You can, whatever you want to identify yourself as, in the center of this paper. And then you can now draw an arrow away from that yourself and write down the name of somebody who in your life who brings you joy or really fills you up or makes you feel really special. That can be a friend, your mom, a teacher in your life, just somebody who really fills your heart. You can write that person's name down. And then on the other side or somewhere else, you can now draw an arrow. And this arrow should be pointing towards you. And now write down a name of somebody who really challenges you, who maybe you pour more into them or you give them more and you don't receive as much as you give them. So that could be anybody that comes to mind. All right, so now hold on to this paper, this drawing, and now I'm going to jump into my presentation. Thank you for journeying with me in that. So my initiative, I called for now We Village, and the idea coming from that is going back to the village. So going back to a place where we support one another and we show up for one another, and where we create relationships, friendships, and practices like we're doing here, that where we can do life together and be sustainable, both emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. So creating a community that where we can live together with the earth and with ourselves. Next slide. And so the story I thought of to support this initiative is from the Three Sisters. If any of you have read the book Braiding Sweetgrass, this is where I first heard this story. And it talks about the relationship between squash, beans, and corn. And so they're named the Three Sisters, and in some cultures, that food is eaten those three are eaten together as a meal. And so the corn grows really tall and provides shade and more kind of a parameter. The beans help the corn grow erect because they kind of work their way around the roots and take away certain nutrients that help the corn absorb other nutrients. And then the beans go really close to the ground and they help keep the soil really fertile and shaded so that all of those three plants can support one another. And the idea is that their relationship actually helps them to thrive and grow. And when eaten together, they actually provide a lot of really beneficial nutrients. And so from that, the relationships that we have with one another as we continue to grow in our own inner work actually benefit one another. The idea that we are mirrors to each other, but also that we don't need to do this work alone. So everything that we're doing now, for example, doing it together makes it even more powerful. Next slide. And then I finally watched season 3 of Ted Lasso. I won't say anything more. For those of you who've seen it, there was a moment where Hey Jude came back to me, and the idea that we will always have challenges and struggles, people who make us feel sad, or circumstances that really bring us down. But there is a power within all of us to take those circumstances and to turn it into something which is wisdom or truth, or courage, or we become even better teachers to others through those challenges. And so who we are and our experiences, although challenging, if we bring that to one another and we support one another in that, that helps us, sustains us through it all. And so that's the song that I was thinking of as well, connected to that. Next slide. So now going back to your paper, another thing I've been nerding out about is something called permaculture. And in the teaching of permaculture, there's something called the zero waste philosophy, which is everything that is given or received is thrown back into somebody or something else. And the natural way that the world works, how plants and animals thrive, they create a natural ecosystem on their own. And so going back to that paper, you pour into people. For example, that person who gives you a hard time, you're pouring into their body of life. You're bringing them joy or wisdom. Maybe you're their teacher, or you're walking them through challenges. But at the same time, maybe they don't pour into you as much. So your tank is losing water and wisdom and energy. However, that other person is pouring into you. And so you are receiving that energy and vitality and reassurance, etc., from that person. And so the idea from permaculture, or learning from our environment, our natural environment, is to close any gaps. So if you had to go deeper into this drawing that you created, you would then want to maybe add something to the person who gives you a hard time. Maybe who are they pouring into? You would draw that onto their thing. And then maybe if you drew your mom or somebody on the other side as they are pouring into you, then maybe who's pouring into your mom? Is she receiving what she needs? And maybe you would draw, okay, my dad does that, or my brother. And so the idea is that everybody's receiving what they need. And maybe a relationship is mutual, so the arrows actually go both ways. And so you can go deeper into your life and figure out, oh, maybe I really don't need to spend as much time with this person because it's drawing away from my energy right now. Or maybe I need to spend, after having a hard conversation with this one person, maybe I need to call up Javier to fill my heart space again. So learning patterns and ideas where we can balance our life ecosystem. And then pairing that beautifully with human values, where you would use techniques such as meditation, action steps and activities, songs, and things in order to cultivate those new values you're bringing into your life through that ecosystem that you create. So there I have a picture of no waste, and then I have the ecosystem within, what's going on in ourselves. Next slide. How much time do I have? Am I doing okay?
A minute and 30 seconds.
A minute, okay. So
you
how
do
will this
two more minutes.
Yeah. So how will this look? How will We Village actually look on a day-to-day basis? So one thing I'm really excited about is using some of our natural resources to as wellness materials. So for example, if people are interested in growing herbs in their backyard or at their kitchen sink, we can use healing herbs and things like that to make teas and stuff, and we would share those with our neighbors or with other people. And then we would have monthly potlucks where people bring a dish they love. And then so we're feeding one another, but we have a consistent time where we will share gathering space with one another. Then a weekly small group, so that could be a walking group or a singing group or a music group, or a gardening group in the summer, or a bicycling group, whatever it is. There would be small groups based on the people who are part of this collective or we village, and therefore they have more of a consistent space to be in each other's lives. And then the last one is learning from the season. So we would use the seasons as a guide to walk us through our curriculum or whatever it is. So in the spring, we would talk about creating new things. So if you're writing a song, or if you're talking about your garden, or if you're maybe moving into a new semester or a big change in life, we would reflect on that. And then summer, harvest, cultivating our ideas, and fall would be how we harvest our ideas, how we bring them into action, and then winter would be a time of reflection and rest. Last slide, I think. Yeah, and to end, we are the world and the world is us. And so as we continue to work within ourselves, understanding the things that challenge us, or understanding how our reality affects us, or understanding forgiveness, whatever it is, we then bring that into our village. We bring it towards one another, and we create something different. And so instead of often just fighting the systems, we always have a place to fall back to within an environment that cares for us and loves us. So that is We Village. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The modern village, We Village. I love it. I love, and I think you are the perfect person to bring this forward for us. Because I see you living this just in your own life, and holding space for other people. Oh yes, the arrows is very in your face, where your energy is going, who are you giving your energy, and how that can be sustainable. So I love I love the seasons, the combination with going with the seasons. And I think this is the way how we are going to take care of our planet and our bodies and everything. So please leave your love, feedback, comments, inspiration for Melody in the comments, in the chats. Sustainable in relationships and sustainable in relationships to nature. Yeah, it's really all the same. So thank you so much. Love it. Thank you, Melodita. Okay. ¿Dónde estamos? Miran. Hello. Yes. How are you doing?
I feel bonita today.
You feel what?
Bonita.
Oh, I love that.
Can't wait to share my initiatives today. Would you be able to share it on your screen?
Yes, let me hold that up.
Thank
you. 1 second. No. Oh, can you all see that? Yep. Okay. Take it away.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Miran Choi, and my Human Values Initiative that I'll be presenting tonight is Strings and Human Values. For context, I'm a cello teacher serving the Garfield Park and Albany Park neighborhoods, and in the interest of revisiting and refreshing my teaching approach this academic year, I wanted to focus my initiative towards the families and communities I serve. Next slide, please. Today's presentation will cover the initiative and relevant goals, parameters of the initiative, that being my group, my initiative duration, structure, materials and resources needed, a sample practice guide from the beginning of my 30-week drafted curriculum, observations and possible challenges, and some closing remarks. Next slide, please. So the initiative itself, Strings and Human Values. I set an intention to include EHB and cello lessons and junior orchestra rehearsals at the 2 programs where I teach, with the goals of at least including 2 teaching techniques regularly and establishing my classroom as a safe, brave space. Since I've started teaching, I've been using EHB in a more indirect method, And in passing conversation, for reasons I'll elaborate on later, but after experiencing burnout this past spring and summer, and really noticing a lack of connection with my students, I knew I wanted and needed to revamp my approach before the next semester coming up in a few weeks. So in order to set off with this initiative, using the worksheet that Andrea forwarded, I've laid out details on parameters and digestible chunks, starting with the group that I'll be working with. Next slide, please. Thank you. The two groups that I teach for are the Chicago West Community Music Center's West Side Instructional Strings and Harp, or WISH program, where I teach primarily cello lessons with students aged 10 to 30 years old. And there I've also recently been asked to lead the junior orchestra there with beginning to pre-intermediate students aged 6 to 16. The other program is the Northeastern Illinois University's Community Music Program, where my current only student over there is over 60 years old. For my cello students, I've been working with them for mostly almost 2 years and have established like friendly rapport with them and their families. And my older students are generally very driven and have the means to invest in their resources. And my younger students generally have guardians or close adults who are very engaged in their growth. Often they ask clarifying questions at the ends of lessons. And I anticipate that my studios in both neighborhoods won't change much in terms of getting new students or losing students. Next slide, please. Thank you. My initiative is intended to last 1 academic year, which works out nicely with both programs as they overlap in their runtimes. And WISH offers annual summer camps, which I've been involved in for the last 2 sessions. And I will include this upcoming summer camp to my initiative pending how planning goes with their admin staff. Next slide, please. Thank you. Regarding structure, I've included a summary of a new lesson structure I'm looking to try with this teaching revamp. Before, I would have dedicated the first 5 minutes to checking in with the student, letting them take charge of what cello-related topic they'd like to look at. And as weird as it feels for me to say, I took pride in letting my lessons be strongly student-led in this aspect, but an element I struggle with is lesson direction and appropriate apportionment, which is a problem since most students, I only have them for 30 minutes. Only one student I have for 45 minutes, and I still feel like I'm grasping for more time to get to all the objectives that I want to cover with them. In this new structure, I would email the week's practice guide at the beginning of the week, either on Sunday or Monday, generally days that I don't teach, to allow them enough time to consider the material. And for the lessons themselves, I'll be adding 2 to 3 minutes of silent sitting at the beginning for students to find grounding. Immediately after, I will ask the students to spend a minute setting their intention for the lesson. And for simplicity, I will only ask them to narrow it down to 1 core topic, or at most 1 topic in repertoire and 1 topic in technique building. And before starting the playing part of the lesson, I will remind them of the week's values and ask them if they haven't already to keep this in mind through the lesson, as I'll be sending them off with a pointer to sort of chew on throughout the week. Pending available time, I'll also try to weave in the secondary activities that can be tried during lessons to help them make the value of the week more relevant to their music making practice if they're open to trying it. And I'll also offer the option of bringing in the week's story if they like a short break from playing. With this new template to work from, I feel like I have a happy medium, still allowing the student to take ownership of their lesson time, while providing a thread of continuity through the lesson, if not the week of practice also, with a practice guide email at the beginning of the week for them. This structure lends itself well also as a template for junior orchestra rehearsals. Here with a generally younger group of students, the secondary activity and story will be more important in keeping everyone engaged and holding open space for the students to relate how relevant this topic is for them, and to explore these values in community by starting discussions and bringing in their personal experiences. Factoring in group energy and dynamics by creating a framework where they're more engaged to share and participate authentically. The feeling of a brave space being formed emerges organically with time and growing comfort. On to the materials and resources needed. Next slide, please. Thank you. A bulk of it is time and energy intensive for me with lesson planning and curriculum drafting for the next 30 weeks, broken into portions, of course, with the upcoming winter break to take as time to reflect and adapt the initiative's details as needed. I've been carefully considering and drafting the curriculum since last month and reflecting on this year's summer camp experiences. I doubt this will be necessary, but just pending the outcomes of an upcoming faculty meeting I have at Wish, I'll figure out if I need to gather parent or admin approval or consent before rolling out my initiative. And lastly, I will need to email and possibly prepare print copies of practice guides for families and students. To better illustrate what this initiative looks like in practice, I have prepared a sample practice guide for tonight, which is also to be one of the first practice guides for my curriculum. Next slide, please. And next one. Thank you. The values for that first week would be truth and openness, and the thought of the week is I am open to learning. The objective is to challenge yourself by trying new things or sitting with the discomfort of something, not knowing something, with the trust that you will learn. I would open the lesson with guided silent sitting and offer the option for extending by 1 minute if the student needs it. Afterwards, we'll spend 1 minute setting intentions for the lesson. And for this practice guide, included a secondary activity, which is a sight reading mindset challenge. The prompt reads, try sight reading a sample of music in 2 ways. In the first run, you're not allowed to make any mistakes or deviate from instructions, and if you do, the attempt is over. In the second run, you're allowed to make as many mistakes as you like, and try as many different approaches as you could think of. And notice how different you feel in each attempt, and reflect on which approach you prefer for your practice. Explore how open you can be to learning outside of practicing music, but also in your daily life. The story would be about the first time I had to read or sight read in the middle of a violin lesson. Back when I used to play violin, my teacher assigned me my first Kreutzer etude for technique, and I was so shaken up. I primarily learned using the Suzuki method, which is based on learning by ear and listening to recordings first. And I was so used to coming to lessons prepared and having pieces mostly polished just for refining during lessons, and having to sight read, I was completely out of my element, and with every uncertain note that I played, I grew more and more worked up before experiencing a panic attack in the middle of that lesson. And my parents were there and didn't quite know what to do except stop recording with the camcorder. But my teacher asked me to put my violin down at that moment and comforted me, saying, part of learning is making mistakes as you try. You only received this music 10 minutes ago without time to practice, so why not have some fun with me figuring it out together? And after I was able to calm down, we tried again, and she made the condition that if I made a mistake, I'm not allowed to cringe, but I'm required to laugh. So there was a lot of laughing in that lesson, but it sure was fun. On to observations and possible challenges. For some of you who have known me longer, having this as an initiative for me might be a little bit of a surprise. That I haven't started teaching with EHV directly sooner. There was one previous attempt at the bare minimum to introduce values of the week and thought of the week on the boards at the summer camp I taught at last year. But the way that it was introduced was without much structure or follow-up in other activities we did at the camp. And so making EHV a more intentional presence in my lessons has been on my mind for a while, but wanted to give it more careful thought before trying again. With the WISH program, there's a slight issue with consistent attendance, or at least communication about attendance. I've noticed that it generally takes longer for my WISH students to secure materials for lessons and for necessary repairs or tune-ups to take place on the loan instruments, and many are juggling post-COVID public school and other extracurriculars in terms of time and energy. Admittedly, part of my holding back and trying this more direct approach has been that I fell into this catch-up mentality. As a result of these factors, I started thinking that I couldn't afford to lose more time. That should be spent catching my students up on core technique and getting them performance ready. And catching that thought this past spring was a pretty sobering moment, as EHV and caring for the student as a whole is not, or should not be, mutually exclusive with music lesson goals. On the note of resources, I'm grateful that all of my students have steady access to email and the internet, and that all the basics are covered. Previously, one of my students experienced difficulty securing a ride to her Saturday lesson, but was able to find help within the program community. Drafting this short list of possible challenges, I was surprised to see how many of these were born out of my own inner resistance. The thought, if not fear, that some students may not be open to EHB has crossed my mind, but generally, I find it easier to trust my students' openness over my own ability to teach and guide. I've been afraid of possible pushback from students or families with this approach, of my possible inability to do this initiative, justice as a relatively inexperienced teacher. But the most crippling thing to face in this list has been my tendency to wait for conditions to be absolutely perfect before trying. And I've accepted, as just drafting this initiative, that a large part of this will demand that I do it afraid. And that waiting for the perfect moment is a slippery slope that will just enable procrastination. And so fearing that I might be doing more harm than good by trying a half-baked attempt was something that I needed to do a judge your neighbor worksheet on, as I was getting myself too worked up with self-distrust. Turning these statements around, what I was clear about was that I want the best for my students, and that I'm learning to not put myself down in order to work towards their best interests. I have faith that I can be responsive enough to sense when something in the new approach might not be working and make adjustments in response. Just curious, how am I doing on time?
I said 2 minutes ago, 2 minutes left, 2 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you just want to wrap up,
sure.
Yes.
In drafting this initiative, I found that while there's some merit and virtue to careful and thoughtful planning, I have to accept that a part of this will have to be done afraid. And so brave learning spaces and music lesson objectives are not mutually exclusive, and if anything, the former deserves more due attention. So I look forward to a brave new academic year together with my students, and look forward to learning and trusting alongside them. Thank you for your presence in my presentation tonight.
Yes, thank you, Miran. Wow, amazing. Don't you love that we can do so many different things with human values? Like this is amazing. And I know, Miran, you're such a great teacher and you've been going at this for years. And what I love about this is that I know you've done other years of mentorship program, that our initiatives, our work with EHV can be always refined. It can be always like you see, like you have this plan and then it doesn't go as you think. Or like I just imagine like Avril with your child, for example, it can go many different ways. And so that it doesn't take away, there's still stuff happening, right, Miran? Like you still see things happening with your students, even if your plan didn't go perfectly. So yes, and thank you for, I know you recently traveled and you had some internet problems, so thank you for showing up and presenting today. Yay. Muchas gracias. All right, and we are coming up to our last presentation for the night. I feel like a presenter for a bar or something. We have Teal here, and he made a great presentation. Let me find you here. Is it?
I'll just have a. I don't need to be. How?
Sorry, Melody and I are fighting right now about how she can see my presentation while still.
Fight.
Hello, everybody. As you probably know, Melody and I are on this year-long trip around the world after getting married in June. And so I am kind of making my initiative how we can, it's based on how we relate to the people that we stay with and meet on our trip, because we are using there will be a few methods of how we arrange our stops. We're using a site called Couchsurfing, where you stay with, or the people host you in their homes, strangers, but it's kind of like a dating app for traveling. You can look at people's profiles and ask them if they're willing to host you while you're in Colorado or Idaho or Tokyo or wherever it might be. And then they can look at your profile and accept you, and you can look at their reviews of other people that have stayed there. And so we're going to be using that, and also using a thing called Workaway, where it's basically that, but it adds a work exchange component where you do some projects, help them with whatever they're working on, 3 to 5 hours a day while you stay with them in exchange for housing and food. And so we're trying to really travel this way because it's more affordable and because we love meeting people and it's fun. And then we'll also be staying with friends and family in various places. And so that's kind of what Overflow is meant to be. So you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So the goal, I would like to make a positive impact on others, not wasting any of the love that overflows from our good work and blessings and relationships. So like kind of relating to what Melody was talking about with permaculture, the idea is that nothing would be wasted, so you build gutters on your house and they flow into a rain catcher that then you can use that water to water your flowers, and that it wouldn't be you wouldn't have to use extra water, and that none of the water would be wasted, right? So same thing happens with relationships, as Melody kind of touched on. And I want us to we're so used to being like in our communities, living in a kind of a structured way and putting a lot of energy into our relationships. So while we're on the road, we will still be keeping in contact with some people, but a lot of that energy, it needs a place to go. And so we want to I want that to overflow onto the people that we stay with. The audience, hosts, family, friends, strangers. Structure is, I kind of already talked about this. So sometimes we'll only be staying with people for a couple days, sometimes a week. Right now we're staying with somebody for 5 days in Colorado that we met through Workaway, for example. Okay, next slide. Oh, fun. So there's different, these are some examples of how I want to maybe employ some of these teaching techniques from EHV. Some of the stuff that, as I was reflecting on this, is like some of it is for Melody and I, and because it's kind of like the take care of yourself first, so that you can, if we're not doing well ourselves, we can't overflow, right? I think often some of these techniques will be like to root ourselves to make sure our source is flowing. But so for thought of the week, that might be sharing something with our host, or it might just be like a reminder, like, hey, remember, whatever, to each other before we go out into the day. As everybody knows, like staying with family is great, but that can bring up, things that are hard. And so it's important to kind of reconnect with your partner and make sure. It's important for Melody and I to be like, hey, like my dad said that weird thing. How do you feel about it? Or whatever, my grandma's anxious about this or that. Like, how is that affecting you? How are we doing? And so it's reconnecting. And, but a lot of these other things are like things that we can do with an offer and participate with our host, whether that's sharing stories about our community and the fruit of our community, because I think it's really special and a lot of people don't have what we have in our relationships. And so it's actually inspiring to people to share it. And I think our level of vulnerability often is maybe surprising to some folks, because they're not in relationships where they're able to exercise that level of vulnerability. And so I think it often kind of inspires and is contagious, in the joy and the transparency that we share. And so a lot of it is sharing about that through stories. And just, I love having fun and just like playing games and cooking, and we can offer that, preparing meals for our host and sharing music. And I think meditation could be shared with hosts from time to time if they're open to that, but more often than not is probably a practice that Melody and I it would be good for us to employ, like I said, at the beginning or end of our day. especially during a harder stay. Next slide. So right now, we're at this workaway site in southeastern Colorado, which is pretty much Kansas for all intents and purposes. So like, it's not in the mountains, it's like plains, and it's kind of deserty almost. It's kind of dry, and we're staying with this older woman, and she's got some beautiful things about her that we're really enjoying, and we're learning a lot about animals and how to trim the hooves of goats, as you can see pictured here. But it's actually been really, really challenging in some other ways right off the bat, or in our day 2 here. Just like had a really hard conversation today with her. She has some really kind of troubling and harmful views on race, and she's just an old white lady from New Zealand, and she keeps bringing up like race conversations, and so it's not that like we're trying to make it a thing, but like, so it's anyways, we had a really hard conversation today with her where she just kept going, and not to go into the details, but it was kind of rough, and we took a bike ride after we finished the workday, and then Melody and I had to kind of process that, and so anyways, it gave me some good material to come up with a sample practice guide, which is on the next slide. So in this situation, because we still have 3 more days here. Here's a sample practice guide that's like right action as a human value, and then the sub value being self-love, because Melody was talking about how on our bike ride, that like something she learned from her own spiritual practices is I protect my spirit by preserving my energy. So even though like the things that are being said at us are very like harmful and problematic and rough, that at a certain point you can kind of tell yourself like, I protect my spirit. I can listen and be present in this, but I don't need to like dump out my heart onto the table and have it be stomped on. I can kind of protect myself, have a spirit of protection, and preserving that energy. And that's something I learned from Melody. And so I think that we can bring that into each day, that we work with this woman and continue 3 more days here. And so we weren't able to get there until we went on a bike ride together and like rode into this small town that we're in, and just took the rest of the day to ourselves and to process that. And so that was really important. And I think that's what we'll bring with us each day. And I kind of trust us to have still a good week with this woman, even though, and the reason that we're able to do that is because we are overflowing. We have plenty of love and validation and acceptance from our communities and from each other and from ourselves, that we don't need to get all that from this woman. We already have plenty, and so we can overflow our love onto her and stand our ground, but still stand strong and have a good week, and hopefully bless her in some way. And so that's kind of an example, and I hope for us to bring that into every place we go. So that's it.
Sorry, it's on the picture. Thank you so much, Teal and Mallory, for bringing this to us. And it's just, human values is for any moment, for the challenging moments too, how we want to go through these challenging moments, right? So we're with you through this situation. I know I'll talk more with you guys later. But thank you for sharing, and I love it. I love this initiative, and you are literally putting it into practice through your travels. So Please leave your love, comments, feedback to Teal in the chat. We have come to the end of today. One more thing I want to share with you. If you haven't heard about this, if you want to put into practice your initiative and want a group to support you, I'm starting this group called the Moving Forward Mastermind. It's a group where we're gonna actually finish the projects that we have that we want to do. If you have felt stuck or just can't seem to move forward in anything that you're creating, we're meeting kind of like this every week to look at some tools, how to do it, and then have a group supporting you and being accountable for you through the process. So message me on WhatsApp if you want to learn more about this. Submit your value of the week, one more week, and chapter 13 and 14, which are just the last part of the book. So of loving what is. And those of you who haven't finished, who have your presentation next week and the next, prepare it for us. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. Love you. Take care of yourselves. Have fun. And love yourself and others. You can unmute and say bye. And great presentations today.
Bye.
Yes, that was amazing.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Love ya.
Bye.
Lots of love.
You guys did great today.
Yeah,
Bye.
amazing.
Bye.
Congratulations, everyone.